Hi everyone, before you dive into the episode, I just wanted to interrupt really quickly. You're gonna dive into this episode and you're gonna hear me call this podcast the Holistic Hustle Podcast. And that is because it used to be the old name of this podcast. And it was an amazing ride. I'm so grateful for the Holistic Hustle Podcast and what it served. But recently I've decided to rebrand the podcast based off the evolution of my own journey, my own story, and where God is calling me to go next. And so now the rebrand, which you may know already, is called Wisdom is Wealth. Didn't want you to be confused, so dive into this episode. They were amazing episode, amazing guests, amazing insights, and enjoy.
I think, it's through the healing, right, that I got to stumble upon that put me in alignment, and I had to go first though.
Hi, I'm Justin Buonamo, and this is Holistic Hustle. Holistic Hustle is doing things for the right reasons, working hard for the right reasons. The healthy balance of what work and progression and accomplishment and success should actually look like. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Holistic Hustle Podcast. And just super excited to have you back, as it's a big goal of mine these days to create incredible content that's going to change the world. And a very important piece to that puzzle is having guests on this show that just have so much value in their heart and in their minds, and that they want to share with the world and currently are sharing with the world. And that explains this individual to a T that I have here today. I've got a client of mine, but also a very good friend of mine by the name of Becky Aste. She is incredible for many reasons. And so you're going to see that in her bio that I'm going to read off here in a moment. And then I'm also going to give a little bit of my own bio about this person, because she holds a special place in my heart. I want to make sure that you guys understand the importance and the character and the value that this person has here today to share with you. And so before I welcome Becky, I'm going to read her bio. And so Becky Aste is a trauma-informed somatic marriage coach and the host of Your Breakthrough Blueprint, a top 5% globally ranked podcast. She is the CEO and creator of I Do Breakthrough, a company dedicated to equipping highly ambitious wives to repair their thriving connection in their marriage by moving trauma out of their body. After spending a decade researching and going through every mainstream modality of healing to save her own marriage, she found herself 2 kids later, separated from her husband and on the verge of divorce. At the final hour, she stumbled upon the unconventional game changer of somatic work that took her marriage from dying to thriving in less than a year, and has made it her mission to get this into the hands of every woman possible ever since. And so that beautifully depicts Becky in so many ways. And to say that she is incredible at what she does inside of her business is a massive understatement. And a big part of that is the human being that she is. And so she's one of my clients at the company that I own, JFF, and it's really hard not to play favorites, but sometimes you do. And she's definitely become one of them. And because this woman just does the work, right? She has a history of just doing the work. But what is most admirable about her is she's learned how to do the work the right way, right? How to have goals, accomplish them. And I'm telling you, she's accomplishing her goals at a very high level, right? But also not let that be at the expense of her own health, her relationships, and other things that are just as important as our professional success, if not more important. And so the person that you're going to learn here from today is someone that you will have a privilege of learning from. And so I hope that your learning from her extends after this show. But first off, let's welcome her to the show. And so, Becky, I'm obviously very honored to have you here, and just want to say welcome and thank you for showing up.
Thank you, Justin. I'm so excited. And it's my first time getting to see you face to face since having the baby. So another good excuse just to hang out with you.
I love that. I love that. Well, that is very exciting. It is teaching me a lot of things about slowing down in life. It put like the best set of brakes on my life that I needed. And it also is making me very thankful for some of the work that I have been doing personally over the years, that I know you have been doing a fantastic amount of too as well, in regards to like, all right, let's still have goals here. Let's accomplish things. Let's change this world. Let's do it for the right reasons, right? And then also a big part of those right reasons is not letting it impact your health, not letting it impact your relationships, right? Being wealthy holistically or successful holistically in our life. And so you're someone of great success, right? And I think you and I have a similar past with success, is like we're probably have been tagged as the hardest workers people know in our group of friends and our family. And like I've said this with a couple of other guests, but I truthfully believe it's true with me and you two as well. It's like I used to be the president of the hustle culture, and you were like the vice president or co-president, right? And it served us for a while, right? And it
Yeah.
was necessary for our ego development and the structuring of our ego and our life in totality. But my first question for you, though, is what is something you used to believe that was important for success that you no longer believe in?
Um, what comes to mind is something you helped me shift my paradigm on. Honestly, for so long I thought that I had to wait for my husband, Sebastian, who you know, to be on board for me to be successful. Before I was doing marriage coaching, before I started JFF, before I even knew you, I was in network marketing and I was successful in that industry. And I felt like I was hitting a glass ceiling though. Like I could only get so far. And for me to really break through to the tippy top where I saw my peers getting to, I thought that it was my husband getting in the way of that. I'd look around and see, my colleagues and sales directors that I was working with whose husbands were like all about that business and super supportive. And meanwhile, I'm wondering, like, why is my husband not into this? And why is he not supportive? And why does he have an attitude when I have to work? And it's interesting because now I can see in retrospect how wildly out of alignment I was in that business. I was successful on paper. I felt like I wasn't successful enough. Um, yeah, would definitely be called a hard worker. In retrospect, I would also call that a trauma response. But I was just so wildly out of alignment with my core values. I valued presence. I valued like enjoying life and savoring life. I valued my kids and my husband, and I didn't have time for any of that because I was always working, going, on my phone. And so it's like, no wonder he wasn't supportive in that. But now, fast forward, when I started this business of wanting to help wives with what I wish I had known a decade previous that could have saved us so much unnecessary suffering, that was the business in total alignment. And by that time, I had already done a lot of somatic trauma healing. So I was in this new version era of me going slower and not wanting to hustle anymore and wondering if it was possible to still go after these dreams that God placed after my heart, but to do it in a way that felt aligned with my core values of rest and family and not just being a workaholic. So then insert Kelly Brock and you, and I was like, oh my God, it is possible. Maybe like I'm seeing these people who are successful in their field and impacting their clients, but they're not killing themselves in the, path to do that.
Such a good answer because I feel like there was two things to that. One, you don't have to wait for your significant other to be on board for you to ultimately get into alignment. And when you're in alignment, success becomes a lot easier, and a lot of the hustle that you were including in your success before no longer is needed, because majority of that hustle when you're out of alignment is just trying to get I think it's a square peg to fit into a circle hole. All right. And so I love that answer because I like I said, it's kind of two-pronged where it's like you don't need your significant other to be on board to start the work at least. Right. In a lot of ways, getting them on board has a lot more to do with you than it has to do with them.
And then once I was, in alignment and seeing success like I had never seen on paper, right? Even in my quote unquote successful time in network marketing, Sebastian did get up on board because it was
Yeah.
not only, yeah, like the success was speaking for itself, but he saw the alignment in me too. He saw how, passionate I was and how much this lit me up getting to serve these new clients and save their marriages. And also I wasn't, constantly distracted. I was making time for family. I was helping put the kids to bed. I was not running around like a chicken with my head cut off. So I think, yeah, it's through the healing, right, that I got to stumble upon that put me in alignment. And I had to go first though. And that's when he did end up coming on board.
And we're going to get into that healing and what's important for that healing process here in a second. But I love that accomplishment for you being Seb coming on board. But selfishly, that's been one of my biggest accomplishments over the past year. When I first met you guys, I was like, I'm going to die to get this man on board. It's going to be one of my biggest goals, one of my biggest wins when he finally is like, okay, I get it now. And it's been so awesome. And I can't take much credit for that. I have to give you all of the credit because you've done the work. And a part of that work is under the umbrella of this topic called somatics. And so my next question for you is, can you explain to the listeners what somatics is and how it can actually help us achieve our goals?
Yeah, somatics just really simply means pertaining to the body, especially in contrast to the mind. So that word soma, the root of it means body. I think there's a women's clothing store called Soma. I've seen it at the mall. So and I think it's for like every woman, for every body type. So somatic just means body. And what I have found when it comes to mainstream modalities of healing, whether it's to work on a relationship or resolve some trauma. A lot of what has been, advised and offered and preached for the past couple of decades has been just from the neck up, really ignoring the body. You think your traditional talk therapy, your couples counseling, books, podcasts, scrolling Instagram, right? Even learning stuff from there and reading articles and workshops, all these things are amazing. But what I found in my personal life was how the heck have I done all of these things for 10 years with my whole heart? You know my character, Justin. I didn't half-ass any of that. Why am I not only just spinning my wheels, but we're worse off than when we started? Like, am I just really bad at this healing thing? And I've learned that many people have had that experience too. So when I stumbled upon somatic work, it was the first time teaching me to get into my body to move trauma out under this premise of like our body keeps the score of the trauma that we've survived. So in order to heal, we do have to go into the body to move it out. And somatics taught me how to do that. Has a lot to do with nervous system regulation, basically releasing stuck energy and stories that are basically frozen in our subconscious blueprint in the cells and even muscle tissue and fascia of our actual body. So at first I thought it was too woo. I was like, what is all this? I just see people with their crystals. That's what I associated with somatic work. But I learned it's actually very scientific. There's so much to be said about how we can move trauma out and really experience a collapse of time in our healing process and a collapse of efforting and energy. It's actually way easier to work with your body than just in your mind. So one last thing to just stick with listeners if they remember only one thing from
This
what
is
I
so
said.
good. Keep going.
Yeah. So we all have this, it's called the vagus nerve that runs from the base of our skull to the bottom of our spine. And that's like the super highway of information in our bodies. It is where all the neurotransmitters and chemical messengers are constantly traveling up and down our spine from our brain to our body, body to our brain. Now, only 20% of those messages go from our brain to our body, but 80% go from our body to our brain. So yeah, were you gonna say something? Oh, you're just
I
pointing.
was just
Yeah,
pointing from body to the brain. No, I'm making sense of
yeah.
it over here as a viewer.
Yeah. So when we wonder, like, damn it, I've been doing all of this healing stuff. I've read the books, the podcasts, I've talked, until my mouth is bleeding. Like, why am I still stuck? We feel like salmon swimming upstream because we're only working with the 20%. But when we get into the body, we're learning to leverage the way God designed our body to communicate and flow in the first place. So there's just a lot more weight to be pulled and less efforting when you can think of it like a tug of war. It's like getting on the side of the tug of war rope where there's like the big, strong 300-pound Samoan dad compared to the kids trying to pull the other side.
Such a good breakdown, and think it's so important to understand what she is saying right now, because if you don't, you will spin your wheels. Like she said, she is of the highest character and commitment to things. So if this woman is spending 10 years on things that more so focus from the shoulders up, that 20%, not seeing too much success, especially I know her, and committing to those things like I know she does with other things, but then switching to the somatic side of things and getting success in the matter of a couple of years, if not a year or less. And so I think it's such a huge lever that people can pull, right? When they maybe feel stuck or want to reach a next level or become more successful. And to me, becoming more successful just means us growing closer to our authentic self each day. Our authentic self is just who God designed us to be. And it's really hard to be our most authentic self if we have trauma literally and figuratively stuck in our body. And so I myself have not gotten as deep into somatics work as Becky has, but I've definitely been on my own journey over the past year. And I've never had more success in all areas of my life like I've had over this past year before diving into the somatics side of things. And
Mhm.
so I just appreciate that breakdown of what it is and the knowledge so people can understand it, but then also see the importance of it. And so I know it's something that you do for yourself holistically, for your clients holistically, but you are a relationship and marriage expert, and it's just proven time and time again with your client results. And I have the luxury of being your business coach and your financial coach, and I see the success that you're generating, and that doesn't happen if you're not very good at what you do. And so I know that you implement a lot of these things in your coaching and in your products and your experiences with your clients in your company. And so my next question for you is, what is one thing that you think is super important for a successful marriage?
I think it's what you just said, the authenticity, like you defining success by getting closer to your authentic self. I think the authenticity is the single most important marker of a genuine connection with your partner. I was listening to a podcast this morning. I don't know if you know these names, but Brene Brown and Esther Perel. They're like two powerhouses. Like I would love to meet them in real life. So when I saw them do a podcast together, I was like, yes, listen. But Esther Perel was calling she was calling it AI, but not the AI we're all talking about with, Chat GPT. She said, in my world, AI is artificial intimacy. And she was talking about this growing, epidemic of how we have what do you have? 26K followers on your Instagram, right? She was like, I have thousands of followers, but not one person who can feed my cat. Meaning all of these connections, right, that social media has allowed us to have over the world, we're highly, highly, highly connected, but like how much intimacy do we have on a deep level, connection to people that know us and are there for us close enough where it's like we could call for as something as dumb as, please come feed my cat. Which has been our problem. We have a cat and I'm like, oh damn, I resonate with that. But, that artificial intimacy, we have all of these amazing, innovated things that are supposed to make us feel connected, yet we're lonelier than ever. And bringing this down to how somatic work even helped me learn how to show up authentically. You alluded to the ego at the beginning of this conversation and how you and I did hustle like hell for a long time and we needed to do that for a time just to survive. That was our ego's way of protecting us. There was wisdom in it. We don't have to demonize that era, right, of our lives, and it still pops up. So, it served its purpose, but it was also a mask. That wasn't our true, authentic selves. When I think of us getting closer to success and closer to our authentic self, it is without masks, without any guards needing to come up what Jake, your mentor always says, nothing to prove, nothing to posture, nothing to, what's the third P? Huh?
Protect. Nothing to prove,
Protect.
nothing to
That's the
posture,
third
nothing to
one.
protect. Yep.
Yeah, nothing to prove, nothing to posture, nothing to protect. So if you were to ask, Sebastian, when did things change in your marriage? He gets that question a lot. He would point it back to Becky's energy was different. Like she was just coming off secure, grounded, really, aligned in how she was like what she was wanting to go after, but also how she was living at home. And he was seeing me in a way that I was sending out a completely different resonant energy than before when there was all this dissonance between my values and how I was showing up. And so for the first time, it's like, wow, I am who I am in all the different areas of life that I'm going to. And somatic work taught me how to let down the masks and feel safe enough to release the ego, to feel safe enough in my own body for the first time and trust my own body to show up in my relationship and show up authentically at work. So it was that energy and that authenticity that he will credit to the change. And that allowed him to feel safe enough to move towards me again after all of the broken trust that we had been, inflicting on each other over the years. So that same thing that I found is the key to a successful marriage is, guess what? The same key to success in business, like thinking about clients, wondering whether or not they want to work with you. It's pretty important that they feel safe enough to move close to you. And they're all wondering that, right? When they are checking you or me or any coach out, like, how do I feel in their presence? How do I feel in their energy? Do I feel safe or not? They can sniff it and they can smell it if we are spiraling, ruminating, triggered. And so, what somatic work can do is really release all of that crap that's not really you out of your body and help you actually show up where you don't have to say a word. Just by the look in your eyes, the body language, the energy you're sending, you're going to make people feel safe in your presence.
It's just so important. And for any type of success or relationship, particularly your marriage, because what I'm hearing there is when you're your most authentic self, you become safer to people. When you're safer to people, you're more approachable for people. And when you're more approachable for people, you can have the conversations and hold the space that needs to be held to have better results, particularly in your marriage. And so if you think about it, like for me as the husband, a lot of times when I have to have a conversation with Lauren about like how I could be better, right? What that's really saying is I'm about to go have a conversation about my inadequacies. It's already hard enough to admit to inadequacies as a man to show weakness, or for really anybody to really to show weakness, right? But then to do that on top of have to do that with somebody that you don't feel safe with, right? Or you don't feel like you can go to, it just becomes this whole package of resistance, right? That then allows one person or the other in the relationship to avoid the hard conversations that need to happen. And so when you become your most authentic self, not only can you make people feel more safe to come to you, but you're also more willing to have that conversation. So for me, my wife is more safe to come to me as I become more authentic. But one big thing is I'm seeing is it's a lot easier for me to go to her, right? Because my ego doesn't stick its head into the conversation as much, whether that's in my head before I go to her or when I do decide to go to her, and hold me back from doing so because I'm just going to talk about my inadequacies, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard to do that. And so it becomes a lot easier though when you feel safe with that significant other. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think part of what you're saying there is when you do the somatic work to get what is not truthfully you out of your body, right? It'll then be out of your relationship, which will then make you your most authentic self, which then has all the benefits that we just alluded to. And so I think
Yeah.
that's just a beautiful answer. And that's kind of my interpretation of it. And I
Yeah.
selfishly asked that question for my own well-being. And then also I wanted for people to just
Free marriage
just
coaching.
exactly. The beautiful part of running a podcast, you get free coaching from a lot of smart people if
True.
you invite the right people on, right? And so speaking of, coaching from the right people, I also see the actual category, right? Because marriage is, besides our relationship with God, is probably the most important topic in the majority of our lives, so the listeners and viewers' lives here. And so I know for a damn fact you're one of the, if not the best person in this space when it comes to what you do, which is helping people with their marriage, really just coming to a verdict or an end solution on what makes most sense for them and their family, right? When they come to that decision around their marriage and be confident in that decision. And there's just so much more than you do in addition to that. You change people's lives. You change people's lives, you change people's marriages, right? And I want people to be able to experience that with you, even outside of this podcast. So I'm sure that there's going to be a decent amount of interest in you. And I highly vouch for Becky. If this is something that you need help with, something that you're leaning into, please reach out to Becky. And, Becky, I just want you to explain to people where they can find you, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. And I'm glad you even said verdict. I've actually never used that word, but it's true to what kind of help we offer people. Some people are unsure when they come to me. Do I have to save my marriage if I work with you? Is that the end goal or agenda? And the quick answer to that is no. It's really helping you come to your own intuitive verdict of what's best for you. If it's to stay, I'm going to teach you how. If it's going to be to separate for some time, I'm going to teach you how to do that in a safe way that feels good in your body and in your family. If it's divorce, then we're going to support you and celebrate you for taking the courage to follow your intuition towards that path, because that's hard as hell too. So I'm just glad you brought that up. And yeah, where to find me easiest is Instagram, Becky_Aste. You can shoot me a message. I'm happy to message you back. And I can give Justin a link to put in the show notes for a free training that I have, 3 Secrets to Thriving Intimacy. It's basically everything I wish I had known 10 years before all the crap hit the fan in our marriage. But yeah, I really help women and men now. We just opened a men's track who have tried everything, and this is really their last stop shop, wondering if their marriage is even salvageable. That's really where I come in as that final beacon of hope. So I'd be so honored to connect with anyone that resonates.
Please do reach out to her, because if you didn't catch the beauty in that, in her bio, they were on the verge of divorce, right? And then now Seb, who is her husband, is coaching inside of this program and helping other men. And so not only is she doing it, the husband is doing it too. And they're both incredible humans who, no matter what capacity, will be blessed to be in their space. And so speaking of that, we were blessed to have you here today, Becky. I really appreciate this so much. And I'm really excited for people to check you out. And so thank you for being here. And for everybody listening, thank you so much for being here. If you guys are enjoying this podcast, I'm very happy with the traction that it has, but I would love to see it keep growing. And I'd love to see it keep growing so we can keep impacting. Like I said at the beginning of this message, this is just a valve for me and my guests to create content that's going to impact the world. And the best way we can impact this world is by you sharing it with people that you think it will impact. And so, Becky, thank you for being here today. We appreciate you. And to all the listeners, we'll see you next time.